If you're trying to lose fat but feel stuck, or if you've tried skipping meals, crash diets, and counting calories and nothing works, or if your energy just crashes every afternoon and you rely on caffeine just to feel normal, then this video is for you. I'm gonna walk you through a complete system to lose fat, fix your energy, and rebuild your habits. And this is all without starving yourself or going to the gym to do cardio. Always remember, this isn't medical advice. I'm not a professional. I'm just giving you my opinion. So the first step to getting your health back in order is removing false beliefs. Us growing up in America or other certain societies have things ingrained in our head that are not true, or simply put, things that are in the way of our journey to better health. So first of all, we need to remove the food pyramid from our brain. I grew up with this being showed to me, whether it was in the school or at a doctor's office, and look how corrupt this is. It says at the bottom, have grains like bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, 6 to 11 servings. Now the thing is, about everything in this group, these items are high on the glycemic index, especially the white foods like white rice, white pasta, white bread. These have an increase in blood sugar levels. And the thing is, when you do have a rapid increase in blood sugar, of course it's going to come down, which is going to lead to a crash. You can end up feeling tired, or especially for me, I end up getting more hungry, start thinking about food, what the next meal will be, etc. And of course, for someone who's trying to lose weight, this is terrible. If you look at weight loss blogs or other people who talk about losing weight, or if you go to the doctor's office, they may recommend meals like have some pasta with salmon or pasta with ground chicken. It's such a clean meal and will help you lose weight. But in reality, this can make you much more hungry after you eat it. Going back to the food pyramid, we see things like vegetables and fruits. Fruits can work in your diet, but if you're someone who maintains a sedentary lifestyle and is trying to lose weight, probably you work in an office or you work at home, it's best to avoid fruits. You can have some here and there for the vitamins and some nutrient benefits, but having it as a staple of your diet, for example, waking up and having a banana and an apple, can lead to an energy crash because that causes a blood sugar spike, especially things like apples and bananas that are filled with sugar. Of course, there's that whole belief people talk about where, oh, natural sugar is better than the processed sugar. And yeah, of course that's true. But if you're someone who's trying to lose weight, just avoid the sugars completely, whether it's natural or not. Next up in the food pyramid group, a very small section saying only 2 to 3 servings a day is the meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, and nuts group. This is ridiculous. For me, I personally put this all the way down here. My diet mainly consists of things like salmon, beef, eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, etc. So same for the milk, yogurt, and cheese group. I don't have a ton of milk on its own, but I do have Greek yogurt and I like to have Parmesan cheese, especially in eggs. But later on, more into the video, I'll go more in depth into why fat in the morning is good for your diet. But for now, we can just leave this here. And at the top, it says fats, oils, and sweets. Use sparingly. In my eyes, this is ridiculous. And by the way, I'm not saying you need to be having a ton of saturated fats. I'm just saying you should control your carbs and be careful of blood sugar spikes. A ton of saturated fats could lead to higher cholesterol, especially if you're not getting a ton of sunlight. I'm just showing you what I've been doing recently and giving you some food examples. Yeah, of course, sugars you want to have completely canceled out. Never be having any sugary crap. This is just a disaster for weight loss. People will argue that, oh, it's good to have some after dinner to satisfy that sweet tooth. But the thing is, the sugar doesn't make you full. It makes you more hungry and makes your body think about sweets more and more. Throughout my own personal big health journey, once I stopped consuming any sweets or anything similar, that whole craving sensation or anything for it pretty much went away. I rarely think about having sweet stuff like I used to. So in all honesty, you do have to eliminate all sugar. But fat is very important. In the food pyramid, we were taught that it is bad, which does not make any sense. Especially fat from salmon is very important. It makes you feel full. It has a lot of vitamins. And we'll dive into more of this later on. But another thing you have to remove from your brain, so the things we're removing from our brain, are also thinking that cardio is the answer. If we're trying to lose weight, we gotta go to the gym every day, run on the treadmill. This is ridiculous. When I talk to people that are on their weight loss journey, I see them running on the treadmill, doing all this cardio, and in my eyes, it's ridiculous. I went through a few phases when I used to run on the treadmill here and there, or go on some walks on the treadmill, but I was never doing an hour on the treadmill, 30 minutes, 40 minutes on the treadmill. It was just some light jogs or some walks here and there. When you're doing cardio, it can just fuel the fire and make your hunger problem worse. For example, if you're in a caloric deficit or whatever it may be, and you go ahead and do some cardio, it may make you more hungry after the run or after the cardio, which may make things worse because you may be more inclined to eat a bunch of food that you shouldn't, binge eat, etc. I'm not saying cardio isn't healthy. I'm not saying it's not good for your heart, etc. But in a weight loss sense, you do not need to focus on cardio. The third thing about removing from our consciousness is having this major belief that we need to be having more vegetables in our diet. This is not in any way a secret to losing weight. If you're eating a bunch of food and you add in some vegetables to your plate, in no way is this going to help you lose weight. Yeah, some vegetables might have some vitamins, nutrients you need, but don't think that you need to have a bunch of carrots or tomatoes or cucumbers on your plate or a bunch of vegetables on your plate if you're trying to meet your weight loss goals. So we will have to retrain our brain to know what certain foods are good for us and what certain foods we should adapt to. So just as a quick sneak peek, we'll be taking a look at things like eggs and butter, and then also steak, salmon, sardines, Greek yogurt without sugar added, Parmesan cheese. Most of these foods are loaded with vitamins, have healthy fats, and will keep us full throughout the day. For example, if we wake up and have some oatmeal or some apples, you're going to be hungry in a few hours and want to have something sweet, or just go back and have more pasta or something else. But if you get into the habit of having foods like this, you can train your brain to be more satiated. I've noticed it in myself. And not even training your brain to be satiated, it's more training your brain to like these foods because you realize you feel good after having them and after having a cleaner diet. So there's a few things I want to go over with you guys. First, we have calories. 2, we have caffeine intake. 3, we have what foods to have when. 4, we have is this expensive, which I'll give you a sneak peek. It's not. Eating out is way more expensive. 5, we have regulating hunger. And then 6, we have blue lights / sunlight. Now, these are all very important concepts that I want to go over with you guys. But before I do that, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. I don't know if I'm blacklisted or what, but my past videos only have a few views and it's pretty ridiculous. So first of all, we have calories, and everyone has a set caloric daily expenditure. So for example, someone might burn 2,300 calories per day just by walking around, going to the gym, doing their daily activities. This is just an example. Everyone's can fluctuate. And the thing is, everyone's can fluctuate daily. One day, maybe I'll burn 2,400 calories. One day, maybe I'd burn 2,700 calories. There's really no way to know exactly how many calories you're burning per day, but there are estimates. But don't be too stressed out about this. If you're eating the right foods, you don't need to worry too much about this. But with that being said, if you're eating the wrong foods, this can be a big issue for you. This may or may not be new information for you. I just want to recap. So if you have 2,000 calories a day of cakes, donuts, chocolate, sweets, processed food, very terrible food, if that's your whole diet, but you're keeping at around 2,000 calories or less, you might lose weight. And you could lose weight every day. You could go from weighing 250 pounds down to 200 pounds, eating a majority of trash foods. On the other hand, someone who's 200 pounds, 250 pounds, whatever, they could eat 3,400 calories of super clean foods like avocado, milk, cheese, and eggs, and end up gaining weight or not lose weight. So just seeing the weight on the scale drop is not always about which foods you're eating. You can eat trash foods, be in a deficit, and lose weight. But the issue is, it's very hard to lose weight eating trash foods because you will feel terrible. And I'm talking, you'll be hungry 24/7. Your mind will be thinking about food all the time. You'll have very low energy. You'll have intense cravings, etc. It's pretty much a recipe for disaster. Not to mention all the blood sugar issues and all the other issues that can occur from eating not only processed food, but a ton of sugary food, etc. So I'd say the number one thing that has helped me on my health journey is being mindful of calories. And it's very, very helpful. We live in a society today where we have a ton of information about what we're eating. A ton of years ago, people would eat fruit or even meat and stuff like that, and they wouldn't know how many calories, how much protein is in these foods. But living today in 2025, you have all the information at your fingertips. So don't take advantage of this. And the thing is, when I'm looking at foods, I never look at the packaging. I never look at the packaging that says, oh, this has all these vitamins, this is good for you, this is a good source of magnesium. What I do is go straight here to the nutrition facts. I'll try to find an example for you guys. So here's a quick example for you. When you're shopping at the grocery store, don't look at the box and take everything at face value. For example, this box says it's called Total Cereal. It has 100% daily value of 11 vitamins and minerals. So by looking at it, you might think this is good for your energy. There's a lot of vitamins, great for the day, help you take on the day. Maybe you can add some fruit, and you also see, oh, it's 100% whole grain. But if you take a look at the actual nutrition facts, you can see that they're adding sugar. There's 6 grams of added sugar per serving. And think about it, that's only per cup as 6 grams. So if you're having 2 or 3 cups of this in the morning, you're getting like 15 grams of added sugar to your diet, which can cause a blood sugar crash and a ton of other issues. And like I said, the worst issue in my opinion is that you'll be hungry pretty shortly after eating this. So really train your brain to look at the nutrition label. Because the thing is, companies aren't really hiding things from you. You're not getting scammed. You literally know everything that's in the food you're eating. Yeah, on the box, it might be pretty misleading, saying that something has vitamins, etc. But in reality, you can literally see the label. Literally, it was Easter over the weekend and I saw some Easter candy, and on like the box, it said it had like these vitamins and stuff. But when you actually look at the nutrition facts, it was just full of sugar. So a lot of companies can be quote unquote misleading. But if you look at the nutrition facts, which by law are required to be on the box, you can learn a lot more information about the foods you're eating. So moving on, I'm sure there's a lot of caffeine addicts watching this video, so listen up. Most people start their day with a cup of coffee, but what if I told you that coffee is not giving you energy? It's literally stealing it from you. So high performers or people that work at home, have busy jobs, love tools that boost performance, and coffee feels like one of them. It's accessible, fast, and makes you feel productive. But what if coffee is actually draining your energy over time? What if the very thing you use to stay focused is slowly making your brain work worse? It's a trick. Caffeine doesn't provide energy. It simply blocks the tired signal in your brain, which is adenosine. You feel alert temporarily, but it's fake. Once the caffeine wears off, the tiredness hits harder because your brain was still building sleep pressure the whole time. Now, one of my pet peeves is when I'm out with friends or people and they say, oh, I need an energy drink. I need to get energy. Or they say, oh, this coffee has a lot of energy in it. That is not true. It's literally just a drug that is blocking receptors in your brain to make you feel tired. So in no way is a black coffee giving you energy. The only energy is calories. Adenosine is a natural compound that builds up in your brain to help regulate sleep. And when it reaches a certain level, your body knows it's time to rest. Now, caffeine blocks adenosine receptors. The fatigue doesn't go away. It builds up behind the scenes, making the eventual crash worse. For example, if you're really tired and you drink coffee, it's not like the tiredness gets refreshed. It's not like you don't need to sleep anymore. You still need to sleep. It just pushes it back a bit. You feel the 2 p.m. crash not because you're lazy, but because of all the adenosine that is blocked now floating through your brain. Most people drink more coffee to fix the crash, only to make it worse later. It's a loop that keeps getting deeper. Now, caffeine gives a small dopamine spike, which may make you feel good temporarily, but it's not real happiness or sustainable motivation. And of course, to feel that happiness from caffeine, you either have to keep on drinking it or up your dose. So instead every day of having 80 milligrams of caffeine, you'd have to have 100 milligrams of caffeine, etc. And of course, caffeine can be a tool. I would be lying to you if I said that years ago I wasn't drinking coffee when I was working on my YouTube videos, when I was building my business from the ground up. Yeah, I did have coffee here and there. I wasn't having it all day throughout the day. But moving forward, once I did start having it all day, having caffeine regularly, I noticed the toll it was taking on me. I was feeling super tired, having a lot of problems with energy and fatigue, which led me to quitting caffeine, and another reason why I was dialing my diet, etc. And now, even if I sleep 6 hours, I wake up, hit the cold plunge, I can feel super energized, ready to take on the day. So I highly suggest you try to remove caffeine from your life as much as possible. Maybe keep it to about like half a cup of coffee per week or 1 cup of coffee per week, maybe 2 at the max. It's highly addictive, even if it doesn't feel like a bad addiction, and the dependency can build up quick. So 1 cup of coffee, having a few times per week, or if you have it 5 times a week, will have much less of an effect as if you have it just once a week. Now, next, we'll be talking about when should I have different foods. Now, a lot of this ties back to removing old beliefs from our mind. So for example, growing up in the US, we'll have like toast, cereal, or even sweet things for breakfast like donuts. I don't know how this came to be, the normal, but this is a recipe for disaster, especially for someone who works from home, is inside all day, looking at a screen, trying to stay focused. If you wake up having donuts, you're going to be more hungry in like an hour. That sugar is just going to go right through your system. And what I mean by that is it's not like you're having a fatty salmon or something else that's going to keep you being sustained energy and not being hungry for hours going throughout the day. Now, in the AM, we'll be having foods like eggs, avocado, and sardines. These are filled with fats and proteins that will help you be satiated throughout the day, not be super hungry whenever you start your next task throughout the day, etc. Now, a ton of weight loss influencers and YouTubers that I see on Instagram Reels, yeah, they help people lose weight. They can get people from 250 to 220 pounds by being in a calorie deficit. But what they're not talking about is what foods make people more hungry and less hungry, which is really, really important. I can't stress this enough. Like I said, you can lose weight by listening to a fitness influencer that says, eat what you want, just eat a bit of it so you can have that cake, those donuts. Don't overeat. Yeah, you'll lose weight, but you'll feel terrible. So by having foods like this, you'll feel much better. You'll feel satiated. It will help that hunger noise in your head to go away, help you to be less hungry. And then for lunch, we can have things like salmon, beef, eggs, butter. This is what I recommend if you're just sitting at home, not super active, you're an entrepreneur, etc. So these foods are not going to cause a blood sugar spike, etc. And then in the PM for dinner, you can have some added carbs. Let's just say you want to have some Greek yogurt, something that doesn't really have any added sugar, might have some natural sugar. Then you can have different cuts of meats, like different types, whether it's pork, chicken, steak, but try to have stuff that have fattier cuts. If you're just having chicken breast and vegetables, you may be more hungry after because there's not much fat in the chicken, especially if it's chicken breast. There's very, very minimal fats in it. So go for a piece with the skin, etc. That will also help you feel more satiated. Now, this diet plan is very simple. It's pretty much the same foods, but the goal here is to try to keep blood sugar spikes to the minimum. And of course, you can go ahead and add in little bits of brown rice, some potatoes, some other things that are try to keep it lower on the glycemic index. But I try to not have white rice. When I have white rice, for example, like 2 cups of white rice or a cup of white rice, I'll feel way hungry after. So for example, if I'm eating the classic bodybuilder meal, chicken and rice, that's a recipe for disaster for me. I'll end up feeling hungry later on. And then let's talk about, is this way of living expensive? Now, it depends on your lifestyle. When I was in the US back a few weeks ago visiting family, I realized how everyone eats out for a ton of meals. People are always like, if they're working at work, they'll go ahead and go for their lunch break, go pick up a sandwich somewhere or some pasta, some meal, and they're spending like 15, 20 bucks a meal. It's never like $5, $6. So if you're living the type of lifestyle, this eating healthier can be so much cheaper, like unbelievably cheaper. Even if you're eating just steak and eggs and high quality meat, it can be much cheaper to do it this way if you're used to eating out. When you're ordering DoorDash, you pay like 20 bucks for a meal, then like $5 to $6 in tip, and then you'll pay like $8 delivery fee, and then you'll end up paying like $3 to $5 in tax, and it ends up coming to be like $40 every time you try to order DoorDash. And eating like this for $40, you can get multiple days of food. But what if you're someone who eats at home and already is very good budget friendly? But what if you're someone who always eats at home and is very budget friendly with their diet? They already have a pretty strict diet of buying very big bulk items, like they buy a ton of rice to try to save money, a ton of carbs. For example, you can try to modify the diet slightly. Instead of having steak, you can just go with ground beef, even though it might get a bit stale in your eyes, having it days on end. For me, it doesn't. I can have it every day and I love it. And you can have things like sardines and eggs, which you can get in bulk for cheaper. But either way, this helps you stay away from those medical bills that can come from issues that you can have if you're overweight. For example, if you're 300 pounds or something and start developing some issues, those are going to cost you a lot of money in doctor's appointments. And you can avoid those by having a better diet, getting your weight down, etc., being more healthy. So when you're looking at this from a perspective of, is this expensive? Take it with a grain of salt, because the cost of not taking care of your health can be much worse than spending an extra few bucks on some meat or some healthier foods instead of sugary junk. Now we'll be talking about a very important one, regulating hunger. But before we go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and click the link in the description to claim a free document that I put together. It's like a 6-page document, and it goes over how you can start getting your health and diet in check today. So you can definitely take advantage of all the free value. Just check it out in the document. But anyways, for regulating hunger, avoid sugar. Of course, that's going to spike your hunger, make us more hungry. Number 2, we have get sunlight. If you didn't know, the sun is an excellent appetite suppressant and appetite regulator. I've noticed this tremendously over the past 6 months. For example, when I was in Dubai, I was having more carbs, more stuff that I wouldn't normally have. Like I was having pasta at night with my girlfriend just because it was easy to make, etc. And when you're walking around in the sun all day, you feel much better. I don't get those super harsh hunger spikes, which I might get when I'm sitting here in LED lights in my room. When you're out walking outside, your body can actually use those carbs. So this is a big one. Try to get outside when you can. There's an app called D-Minder. D Minder. You can download it and you can see when the vitamin D is outside. So for example, here where I live in Europe, from about 9 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. I can get vitamin D. So during that time, I try to have a solid block of time outside. I go in more in depth into this in other videos, and I'm going to in the future. But then 3, we have control carbs. Of course, carbs can be very beneficial, especially if you're an athlete, high performer athlete who's moving around outside, or if you have a very physical demanding job. But the key here is to control them. Have carbs that are lower on the glycemic index, which means instead of having white rice, have brown rice. And if there's white pasta and brown pasta, go with the brown pasta, stuff that is going to have a less of an effect on your blood sugar. Now, I hope you get the point that if you're trying to lose weight, you really don't have to put in a lot of effort. You don't have to go every day to the gym. You don't have to give up time from work, give up time with family. You're simply just making different choices. So instead of going home, stopping in the drive-thru to pick up Dunkin' Donuts or some sugary crap, you can just wait till you're home and cook a normal meal. And then of course, for number 4, we have fat plus protein. Now, when I say fats, I don't mean having a bunch of seed oils. I'm talking about healthy fats from things like avocado, beef, salmon, fish, etc. The reason I say that is because these fats, rather than fats from like seed oils, are filled with a ton of vitamins. And these vitamins and nutrients will help you feel more full, help your body feel better. And if you're in any vitamin deficiencies, this can help fix it. So now let's talk more about blue light. Not enough people talk about the effects of blue light. I've recently learned a lot about this recently, and I'm excited to share it with you. So I have this app on my computer called Iris. You can't notice it because of my screen recording software, but as I move this slider, my blue light on my screen gets removed. So if I have it all the way here, my screen looks very red. There's not much blue light. If I move it up, there's more blue light. So I recommend you download the software Iris at all times. And then I also have some blue light glasses, some really powerful ones. You can see these ones are all red. A lot of blue light glasses you'll find are like orange. They're pretty clear. They're not solid red. These are actually good blue light glasses. I recommend you get a pair of solid ones. So I wear these at night, and the reason is to help regulate my circadian rhythm first of all. Circadian rhythm is very important for energy, for regulating hunger, etc., in many body processes. And if your circadian rhythm is out of hand, things can start getting messed up. So from the National Institutes of Health website, you can see that research has shown that blue enriched light exposure immediately before and during the evening meal acutely increases hunger. So this is very important. So this is saying that if you're looking at your phone right before your evening meal or right after, you might end up being more hungry. If you're eating dinner and it's like 8 p.m. and you don't have blue light glasses on and your phone is just glaring blue light at you, you can end up being more hungry. It will lead you to go down and get a snack. So it's pretty cool to think that this could be the make or break between you having that midnight snack and really feeling like you need the snack, or if you're simply wearing blue light glasses or you have a blue light filter on your computer, it can help you not have that need to get a snack. So it's just such an easy thing you can turn on your computer, download Iris, turn it on, and one of the 10 plus benefits of avoiding blue light is that you can end up being less hungry. Overall, everything I'm telling you is important. And when I'm talking about weight loss, I'm not just talking about counting calories, being in a deficit. That's pretty well-known information. But what I'm really trying to get to you guys is the information that isn't well-known, such as what foods to eat, what foods change your hunger in certain ways, what foods make you more tired or not. So I'd love to have some conversations with you guys down in the comments down below, and make sure to grab that document in the description to read more about how you can start taking immediate change on your life. It's completely free. Just click the link. And anyways, I'll see you in the next one.